Meeting on the air first and third Sunday, 7 p.m., W5FC. This is the W5FC repeater, PL 110.9.
Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin tonight's Skynet? This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom, and I'll be your net control again for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Make sure you do that enthusiastically. Is there any emergency or priority traffic at this time? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from World Net Control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on this frequency with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to the club website, which is whiskey5friedchicken.org, W5FC.org right now for a complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur radio operators are welcome, and you need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. This net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. We have general announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, and now I can say it after a year and a half, where and when you can look through a telescope. National Space Society events. Discussion topic of the evening was up. Space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, recent astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A and 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's start with low power and short time check-ins. If you are one of those, please come with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power or short time. All right, well, I didn't hear anybody, so we'll just go ahead and move on to general check-ins. If you're one of those, that would be just about everybody. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. General check-ins.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo, Bill in Irving. This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far northeast Dallas.
This is Kilo India 5 Golf Romeo Hotel Melissa. Really close to Gus. Far northeast Dallas.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony. Not quite as far away as Gus, in Dallas.
Kilo 5, Golf, Lima, Delta, Randy, Rowlett, close to no one.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda and DeSoto, Lee in Quinlan.
right, let me go ahead and get those. I've got N5BB, that's Bill in Irving. W5GUS, Gus in far northeast Dallas. K5GRH, Melissa, far northeast Dallas, nearby Gus. N5NT5TM, that's Tony in Dallas. K5GLD, that's Randy in Rolette. W5OZL, that's Miss Brenda in DeSoto. K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Quinlan. Do I have additional check-ins?
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz. It says I'm spaced. Out is what it's supposed to say on Echolink. Oh, Mesquite.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo Zulu Whiskey, Jay near Wilford.
I have KF5JHA, Chaz, spaced out in Mesquite, or in space, but hails from Mesquite. There's also that guy from Iowa, too. KF5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch, got you checked in. KG5BZWJ, near Weatherford. He's not allowed to go in Weatherford, but I got him checked in on RF, no less. Anyone else over on RF who would like to check in, please come now with your call sign name, where you are transmitting from.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango, Sierra Kilo, Burl in Dallas.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Alpha, Papa Lima, Patrick in Dallas.
Picked up two more. I got KF5TSK, Burl in Dallas. KG5APL, Patrick, also in Dallas. Anyone else before I move to Echolink, please come now.
November 5, Kilo Romeo Golf, Kevin in Farmers Branch.
Okay, one final one on RF this round. I got N5KRG, Kevin, over on Farmers Branch. Thank you for checking in. Let's see, let's go ahead and move to Echolink. I got N5IMS for sure. That would be JJ and Carrollton, of course. And I'll take check-ins by voice or on chat. On Echolink, I'll give you extra time. Please come now. Echolink only.
This is KG5WVL, checking in on Echolink from Boswell, Oklahoma.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John, just north of Dallas and Norman, Oklahoma.
Bobby, WD5 BPX, Whiskey Delta 5, Baker Papa X-Ray, Wills Point, Texas.
discombobulate here. I got a little bit of questions. Let's see. I've got in Oklahoma, I got a Kilo Golf 5. Is that James? I'm not sure. The Kilo Golf 5 call in Oklahoma. Could you come back again? I'm trying to figure out from the list here, but if you could tell me where you're located in your name, please.
This is Kilo Golf 5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James. I'm checking in from Boswell, Oklahoma tonight. KG5 WVL.
Okay, James, now I understand. KG5 WVL, and I think it said Bose, Oklahoma? Boswell. Gotcha. I got you checked in, so you're up there probably at your summer home. I got K5JDW, John and Norman. He is definitely in his summer home up there. WD5 at WD5 Bravo Papa X-ray. That's Bobby over in Wills Point. Let me see, we've got any additional check-ins. Please come now over on Echolink.
Control, this is Whiskey 0, Mike Bravo Charlie, Shane, Blue Springs, Missouri.
Okay, we got W0MBC, Shane over in Blue Springs. Yeah, I can't talk tonight. And say hello to Bethany for us. She's probably off doing something fun, but make sure she comes back again. Let's see, anyone else on Echolink before I move back to RF? Okay, let me go ahead and open up the net to anyone, anywhere, any place, any mode. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Golf 5, Uniform Kilo Uniform, David, Mesquite.
Oh, we're teasing them out of the woodworks tonight. We've got David, KG5UKU over in Mesquite. Welcome back, David. And thanks for all who have checked in so far. Let's go ahead and move on. We'll have additional check-ins later on. General announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come to your call sign. Nothing at all. All right. Well, I'll make a couple of announcements. Don't forget, Moon Day is coming up. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club, we're being reunited. We have an opportunity to be together for the first time in a year and a half, and that is at Moon Day at the Frontiers of Flight Museum on July 24th. This will be an opportunity to go ahead and reach out to kids who are interested in space and hopefully, by extension, amateur radio. So if you're interested in coming by, we have the Frontiers of Flight has done this every year. Last year was virtually. Keynote speaker will be former astronaut Don Bursch. He is a captain, USN retired, graduated from the U.S. Naval Academy in 1979. He became an astronaut in July of 1991, His experience includes controls and displays for the shuttle and the space station, chief astronaut appearances, well, that's different, and spacecraft commander and Capcom, which I think all the astronauts do at one time or another. He's a veteran of 4 space flights. Burst has logged over 227 days in space. He was the mission specialist on STS-51 in 93, STS-68 in 94, and STS-77 in 1996, and served as a flight engineer on the ISS Expedition 4, one of the early missions, 2001 and 2002. Dan Burst and fellow astronaut Carl Waltz held the U.S. space endurance record for 196 days in space. He left NASA in May of 2005, and 2 months later retired from active duty after 26 years of service in the U.S. Navy. So he will be there with a keynote address, ISS Expedition crewman, as well as 4 shuttle flights. So he looks to be very interesting to his comments about space flight. Usually it's about an hour long. You get an opportunity with a question and answer. This is at the Frontiers of Flight Museum down in downtown Dallas at Love Field. Now, what you can do, and this is always fun, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club will be there, along with AMSAT and a few other groups, many groups, in fact. This is one of the biggest celebrations in the country involving the moon landing from 1969, and it is a celebration of landing on the moon. Various groups come in from all over the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and they talk up science, space, and technology. We fall into at least one of those categories, maybe 2. So if you'd like to come by the way, if you show up and say you're part of the Dallas Amateur Radio Club and you help us out, they'll let you in for free. We'll set you down, you get a chance to talk up amateur radio with some kids. This will be in a couple of weeks. This will be July 24th. I'm sorry. You know why the 24th kind of made me think December. But come on by, answer their questions. In fact, they may have some questions ahead of time to ask. So please be ready for some really good answers for them. Now, some other announcements I can make this evening. We can talk about all the different nets on the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. There are a bunch of them. If you're listening for the first time, don't forget, we have nets every night of the week, 7 days a week, 24/7. Starting with Mondays, we have alternating nets. First week is Ham Fixin's Net, where you get to talk about recipes, fun stuff that you may have cooked, cooking techniques, and all of that. That's Mondays at 7 o'clock. Second week is MCOM 101, N5KRG, who is Kevin, who has checked in on the net. He does MCOM 101. He'll invite you in and discuss things about emergency communications, direct you to different group-served agencies that you might be interested in. It's just basic stuff, and we get other folks that from CERT and other groups who come in, and they'll answer your questions in case you're interested. We have the third week on Mondays, the Ham Fixin's Net is second helping. Same thing, different week. Fourth week is GeekNet. We talk about everything, not just about computers, ham radio, but computers and other things. That's the fourth week, GeekNet, 7 p.m. And then the fifth week is Surprise Net. We told you what it was. It wouldn't be a surprise. So air participation is encouraged. I think we got one coming up in the next month or two. On Tuesdays, we have AMSAT East at 8 p.m. Question and answers and info about amateur radio satellites. That's Tom. Can't think of Tom's call sign right now, but Tom does and discusses AMSAT in detail. And if you have questions about amateur satellite and being able to, communicate and know how to have contacts via the repeater systems that are kind of on board, mini computer repeater systems on board. This is the net to be a part of. It's Tuesdays at 8 p.m. On Fridays, we have Search City Simulation, and we also have hold on. Well, I guess she hasn't checked in yet. Hold on. Let me look and see here. That was the previous net. Forgive me if I seem confused. I actually did an earlier net, and I'm mixing people up. So, at any rate, learn about radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operators, NOSA KI5GRH, usually net control, and it's actually kind of fun. Visit the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday, CERT City. This one has summer hours starting at 8 p.m., so remember, after the daily traffic net, you have to wait an hour and then get involved. Don't forget, Saturdays is the night of nets. We have TechNet from 7 to 8, where we talk about technical issues involving amateur radios. We have also Skynet, which you're on right now, and then we have the Afterglow Movie Net, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Also, we have the daily lunch bunch net from 12 at noon until about 1, Monday through Friday. There's always a survey question, something about you and amateur radio. So eat lunch with us. And then the ARRL net, the National Traffic System Training Net, is every night at 6:30 p.m. till about 7. All are welcome to check in on any and all of these nets. Now, tonight's Afterglow info is on tonight's net, which is Beyond the Stars. You ready for this, kids? I will tell you. Have to find it. Gene Cernan was quite an astronaut. He was billed as the 12th and last man on the moon, but he went to the front door to get his mail, and like so many others times before, noticed most letters addressed to Steve Austin, the last man to walk on the moon. So many letters all sent to him, the real last man to walk on the moon. He sighed as he brushed the mail aside. And to add insult to injury, another fan letter, this time to the last man to walk on the moon, number 13. Huh? He thought, who is this Paul Andrews guy? He looks like Martin Sheen, and we all know Sheen can't even operate a stick shift on a Corvette, much less pilot a spaceship down onto the surface of the moon. 12:02 alarm, and a downshift into second gear, he recited from memory. The doorbell rang. Cernan shuffled to the front door. Some kid with an attitude was there with a cigarette hanging out from his pursed lips. The kid spoke. Are you the last guy to walk on the moon? If you are, you are my dad. So, Pops, are you ready to support me? He spoke to... Oops. Oh, here it is. I spoke to Steve Austin, but he just crowbarred shut the front door. Cernan wasn't impressed. Join us for the next Afterglow movie, Beyond the Stars, from 1989, tonight at 10:30 p.m. You can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, whiskey5friedchicken.org, w5fc.org. Okie dokie. Do we have any additional check-ins at this point? Please come now with your call sign name, where you are transmitting from. Boy, I can tell it's summertime. Everybody's been enjoying the outside. They come in and they fall asleep because they get tired really quickly. Okay, let's see here. Next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. Do I have someone here, not there, but here, who would like to talk about the Texas Astronomical Society. Please come with your call.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha.
Okay, KF5JHA. If it's going to be you, it's going to be you. But please go ahead. Tell us about the Texas Astronomical Society.
Oh, you sound so excited to invite me to participate. That's great. Oh, the next Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting will be held on Friday, February. How about July the 23rd at 7:30 p.m.? The topic will be a members' open dialogue with questions and answers from members to members. This is going to be interesting. Texas Astronomical Society Club members will receive an email link to a Zoom meeting in advance of the meeting. Now, we only have a few more Zoom meetings left. We're planning to meet in person starting with our September meeting. So that's going to be a great thing to happen. One of the reasons why Skynet was picked to be on a Saturday night was so that there was an opportunity for live reports from the TASS public observing sessions that are held on Saturday nights. And they're beginning again. I'm not sure exactly which ones have started already, but you can check the website out, texasastro.org, for update information and details about the meetings and the public observing sessions. So I'm excited. They've already started the one in Cedar Hill, if I remember right, last month, and they're expecting to start some of the other public observing sessions this month. So go to texasastro.org to find out those details. This is KF5JHA, back to our net control.
Thank you, Chaz, and thanks for mentioning that. I'm very excited about them going back and doing star parties again. Boy, a year and a half, that's a long time to wait. Looking forward to hearing those again. Let's see here. So do check out their website, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, which is texasastro.org for additional information. They have a really wonderful website there and a calendar, which I think will be up and running again with lots of observing and star parties going on. Next up is the National Space Society Events and Activities. Now, let's see, did Bill? Yes, he was number 2 on the check-in. Bill, what do you have for us for National Space Society Events and Activities from KE5ICX?
This is in 5BB. As long as I don't get stuck as number 7, that's a prison to be stuck as number 7, but anyway. Number 2 works. This is in 5BB. I am the membership director of the North Texas chapter of the National Space Society. Our next meeting, is tomorrow, starting at 3:30 p.m. in person for the first time in a year and a half. We will be at Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving, the same location as the last Irving Amateur Radio Club Christmas party when we had one, nearly 2 years ago. So that's at 183 in Beltline in Irving. And the people will start to get together at 3:30. The presentation starts at 4. The meeting tomorrow is going to be by one of our youngest members, and he is a high school student in Plano, and he is going to talk about National Space Society youth engagement through social media. So he's got a lot of ideas about how we should be engaging through social media to reach out to kids. Maybe I'll learn something there and I can sick him on Skynet. We need some younger members. And so that's the meeting tomorrow in person, Spring Creek Barbecue in Irving. We are going to try to do a WebEx feed also, but I think it's going to be very difficult to get good audio and video of the room of people. But we're going to try. We at least can feed the slides. If for some reason you want to look at the slides, you can send me an email and I'll send you to the link for the WebEx. You can reach me at n5bb@arrl.net. November 5 Bravo @arrl.net. But there's something else going on tomorrow involving human use of space. Richard Branson, the billionaire, is supposed to go up with, 5 other people? Yes. 2 women and a total of 4 men. Total of 6 people. On his Virgin Galactic Unity 22. That's what they're calling it. Spaceship 2, and it's the Unity 22 launch. The exact time of the launch has not been published, but the broadcast associated with it is going to be hosted by Stephen Colbert, of all people. And it will start, the broadcast will start at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Our time, Central Time. So, if you want to get up at 8 a.m. in the morning and see what's going on, there's a lot of information over here at space.com. I just did a Google search for Virgin Galactic launch and looked for the link from space.com, and it's got a whole bunch of things in there. One interesting thing is it's got details about all the people that are going up on the launch. And, Branson wanted to be the billionaire to go up before the other space billionaires. So he wasn't going to be on this launch, but he decided to go on it so he could beat Elon Musk and his brother that are going up later in the month. So did I get that right? I think I got the right billionaire. After a while, it gets confusing because there's so many billionaires. Is it Musk? Now I'm getting confused. I apologize. It's getting late. I've had a long day. One of the other billionaires is going up later this month with his brother. The other big thing is National Space Society. We had our International Space Development Conference 2 weeks ago. It was virtual. And you can look at all the free presentations yourself. They have been recorded. And you can do this in one of 2 different ways. This coming week, July the 15th through the 17th, it'll be rebroadcast. Or you can look at the YouTube stored files. To find this, you want to go to you want to do a web search for ISDC 2021. And there's more than one group that uses that abbreviation, ISDC. So you're looking at the International Space Development Conference. The actual website is isdc2021.nss.org. And at that website, if you go down and click on the YouTube link, you will get over to the stored YouTube files for the 3 days of presentations that were made June the 24th to 26th. And you can look at them for free. Or you can wait until this coming Thursday and see them live. Again, replays. I think that's all I had. If you have any interest in joining the National Space Society, again, you can reach me at n5bb@arrl.net. That's all I've got, Tom, N5BB.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. And Yeah, I caught a little bit of one of the conferences that they did for free, and it was quite interesting and well done. So that is National Space Society, and it's isdc2021.nss.org. Very impressive website as well. So let's see. Next up is the discussion topic of the evening. This one is a continuation. This is part 3 of gravitational waves. What is LIGO this evening? So I'm going to talk a little bit about it. I'm no expert, but the people who are publish this stuff on their website, and I thought it was quite interesting. So I'm just going to echo to you some of the things that I learned. By the way, the first time I heard about this was at Texas Astronomical Society when they did a presentation on this, and I was rather kind of taken by it. So here we go. Let me give you what I prepared. In part 1, we discussed what gravitational waves are, ripples of time-space by violent and energetic processes in the universe. They were predicted by Albert Einstein in 1916 as part of his general theory of relativity. So we discussed that. That was about a month and a half ago. In part 2, we discussed the sources of gravitational waves, and they were continuous gravitational waves, compact binary in spiral waves, and stochastic waves. Today, we're going to talk about how we detect them using a laser interferometer gravitational wave observatory, or the LIGO. So the first thing we're going to do is talk about what is an interferometer and what does it do. And I've got I do have some videos up you can see with a split lens that's used with a laser. Interferometers are investigative tools used in many fields of science and engineering. They're called interferometers because they work by merging two or more sources of light to create an interference pattern, which can be measured and analyzed, hence interferometer or interferometer. The interference patterns generated by interferometers contain information about the object or phenomena being discovered. They are often used to make very small measurements that are not achievable by any other way. This is why they are so powerful for detecting gravitational waves. LIGO's interferometers are designed to measure a distance of 1/10,000th the width of a proton. So what does it look like? Well, because of their width of application, let's see here, let me fix that. Interferometers come in a variety of shapes and sizes. They are used to measure everything from the smallest variations on the surface of a microscopic organism to the structure of enormous expanses of gas and dust in the distant universe, and now to detect gravitational waves. Despite their different designs and various ways in which they are used, all interferometers have one thing in common. They superimpose beams of light to generate an interference pattern. The basic configuration of the Michelson laser interferometer is shown in the stream, which is what I'm doing right now. It consists of a laser, a beam splitter, a series of mirrors, a photodetector, which is a black dot that records the interference pattern. And this is something I just mentioned because it was fun. Many years ago, I made a 3D picture using a red laser, coherent light source, and a reflected semi-incoherent scattered pattern captured on a photographic glass plate. Using the laser as a source to record an image on film, it can be played back with the same laser and scatter pattern of the developed plate. It's magic. Of course, I had a guy who had a PhD helping me along the way, which was pretty cool. I'll tell you about that story someday. So too, LIGO can detect the differences of the light patterns. Now, there's a movie with sound, so if you're going to look at it and you're checking the links, I've got the sound turned down here so it doesn't interfere. But gravitational waves cause space itself to stretch in one direction and simultaneously compress in a perpendicular direction. In LIGO, this causes one arm of the interferometer to get longer while the other gets shorter, then vice versa, back and forth as long as the wave is passing. The technical term for this motion is differential arm motion, or differential displacement, since the arms can be simultaneously changing lengths in opposing ways or differentially. As described above, as the lengths of the arms change, so does the distance traveled by each laser beam. A beam in the shorter arm will return to the beam splitter before the beam of the longer arm. Then the situation switches as the arms oscillate, being longer and shorter, arriving at different times. The waves of light no longer meet up nicely when recombined with the beam splitter. Instead, they shift in and out of alignment or phase as they merge while the wave is causing the arm lengths to oscillate. In simple terms, this results in a flicker of light emerging from the interferometer. This process is illustrated in the clip that I'm showing you now. While in principle, the idea seems almost simple in practice, detecting that flicker is not. The change in arm length caused by gravitational waves can be as small as 1/10,000th the width of a proton. That's 10 to the minus 19 meters. Furthermore, finding a gravitational wave flicker amongst all the other flickers LIGO experiences caused by anything that can shake the mirrors like earthquakes or traffic on nearby roads is another story. LIGO technology describes in detail how LIGO filters out that noise in order to detect telltale flicker of light caused by a gravitational wave. Now, as I mentioned earlier, LIGO stands for Laser Interferometer Gravity Wave Observatory. It is the world's largest gravitational wave observatory and a marvel of precision engineering, comprising two enormous laser interferometers located 3,000 kilometers apart. LIGO exploits the physical properties of light and of space itself to detect and understand the origin of gravitational waves, or GW. LIGO and other detectors like it is like any other observatory on Earth. Ask someone to draw a picture of an observatory, and odds are they will draw a gleaming white telescope dome perched on a mountaintop. As a gravitational wave observatory, LIGO bears no resemblance to this whatsoever, as the aerial photograph that I'm showing right now. Now, the thing about it is that what you have is and I'll describe it if you saw the, now you got LIGO Palomar, and it shows the dome, but at any rate, it shows at 90-degree angles these long tubes that stretch out from the center point. One's longer than the other, as what was mentioned. Okay, so LIGO Palomar, an iconic telescope dome, the 200-inch Hale telescope at Palomar Observatory. I'm not sure why they're showing this except to say that it is different looking from the LIGO, and of course, you're going to see something completely different. Now I got a picture of LIGO up, not to confuse you. More than an observatory, LIGO is a remarkable physics experiment on the scale and complexity of some of the world's giant particle accelerators and nuclear physics laboratories. Though its mission to detect gravitational waves from some of the most violent and energetic processes in the universe, the data LIGO collects may have far-reaching effects on many areas of physics, including gravitation, relativity, astrophysics, cosmology, particle physics, and nuclear physics. Nonetheless, since the O in LIGO stands for observatory, we describe how it differs from observatories that most people envision. Three things distinguish LIGO from a stereotypical astronomical observatory. LIGO is blind. It is not round and cannot point at a particular part of the sky. It is rare for a single detector to make a discovery on its own. LIGO is blind, unlike optical or radio telescopes. It does not see electromagnetic radiation. In other words, visible light, radio rays, or microwaves. It doesn't have to, because gravitational waves are not part of the electromagnetic spectrum. They are a completely different phenomenon altogether. They are a completely different phenomenon altogether. You knew I was going to do that from airplane. though in some cases we do expect to see some form of EM radiation coming from GW sources. In fact, electromagnetic radiation is so unimportant to LIGO that its detectors components are completely isolated and sheltered from the outside world. So it says here, what's LIGO LHO-Y arm? Okay, well, here we go. We'll explain all that. One of LIGO's Hartford arms, the steel vacuum tube, resides within a concrete enclosure seen in the image that I'm showing you. The midsection, halfway to the end of the arm, is barely visible from 2 kilometers away. And you can see it here. It's exposed and it goes on forever and ever. Looks like the the monorail system at Disney World, in the sense that it just goes on and on. LIGO isn't round and can't point to specific locations in space. Since LIGO doesn't need to collect light from stars, it doesn't need to be round or dish-shaped like optical telescope mirrors or radio telescope dishes, both of which need such structures to focus EM radiation onto the detector. Each LIGO detector consists of 2 arms. One is 2.5 miles long, comprising a 1.2 meter wide vacuum tubes arranged in an L shape and covered by a 10-foot wide, 12-foot tall concrete shelter that protects the tubes from the environment. LIGO can also detect gravitational waves coming from any direction, even from below. A single LIGO detector could not initially confirm gravitational waves on its own. The initial discovery of gravitational waves, or GWs, required that similar signals arrive quasi-simultaneously in multiple detectors. Happily, GW 150914, everybody knows that, fulfilled that requirement. And we now have seen many signals which appeared in 2 LIGO detectors and also in Italy's Virgo detector. Now that we understand both our signal sources and our instruments better, some detections can be confidently made with a significant signal in just 1 detector, a giant leap forward for our field. However, to help electromagnetic observers find a possible light source associated with our detection, we must have multiple detectors, ideally 3 or more, to localize the signal in the sky. This is the case for the first binary neutron star signal, GW 170817. And that's it for this evening. What I will do next time, which will be a month from now, I'll go ahead and discuss the specific targets that have been a part of gravitational waves. So be ready for that next month. Let's see here. I guess it's time for me to ask if there's any additional check-ins or if anybody has any questions. I don't know if I can answer them, but I bet I can find somebody who could. So please come now with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Or if it's a recheck, just say recheck in your call.
Kilo, Charlie, 3, Charlie, Delta, Uniform. Kilo, Charlie, 3, Charlie, Delta, Uniform. Timothy in Westmoreland County, New Florence, Pennsylvania. Checking in to the Skynet.
Recheck W5GUS.
Kilo, Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
let me go ahead and get her caught up here. We've got KC3 CDU, that's Timothy. He's in Pennsylvania, and he's in on All-Star Link 50493. Thanks for checking in, Timothy. Come back and visit us every week. Here on Saturday evenings, I get KB5SOK, that's Sean over in Fort Worth. I got KG5ZMG, that's Joe over in Arlington. And then I got Gus, W5GUS with a recheck. Gus, go ahead.
Thanks, Tom. I'm just wondering how the Earth's magnetic field or gravitational field, affects the LIGO measurements, and wonder if they can filter out, or if there's a need to do that. How does the Earth's gravitational field affect the readings? W5GUS.
Well, Gus, I'm no expert on this, but I would suspect the same way they do any sort of gravitational, not gravitational, earthquakes and traffic and things like that. What you do is you look for outliers, and then eventually what you do is you remove the outliers, and then you start getting the data. Now, with as small as it is, I'm not sure how they're capable of doing that. It's way beyond my capabilities. If I were doing that, it'd be working for them. But I suspect that. Does anyone have any comments on that? How would they filter out Earth's magnetic fields or any sort of noise? How would they go about do that? Anyone have any comments? From KE5ICX, please come with your call.
N5BB.
CDU.
Okay, we got two. One on Echolink. I think it's you were cut off, but let's see here. It may be Timothy. Okay, let me start with Bill, N5BB. Your comments.
Oh, this is N5BB. Gus, I believe, asked about the gravitational field of the Earth. I think it's what he asked. Tom, you there at the end were talking about the magnetic field of the Earth. Magnetic field of the Earth doesn't make any difference. The gravitational field of the Earth, of course, pulls everything, but what they're looking for is waves. So they're not looking at static potential, kind of like DC. They're looking at changes, ripples due to gravitational things going on in other galaxies, or our galaxy for that matter. So these waves are very small, like you say, it's like the diameter of a proton, the effect. But they're in frequencies that are typically between, I think, about 1/10 of a hertz and a few hertz. So, less than maybe 10 or 20 hertz. So it's frequencies which are very low audio. This would be the sub-bass, the super woofers, and lower than your ears can hear up to, actually it goes up to about 1 kilohertz, I believe. But they have special filters, so they're only listening to these frequencies. Now, anything on the Earth that affects the Earth's gravitational pull in that frequency range, of course, will be a problem. So, what affects it? If a big truck went by on a highway, that would affect it. Believe it or not, the gravitational field of that vehicle. If there is events like, the moon affects it, but that's pretty slow. It's moving around the Earth. If there was if it was near a seacoast, of course, moves of the waves on the sea would make a big difference. If it was near a lake, moves, waves, and changes of the water on the lake would make a difference. So they've got all kinds of modeling things to remove a lot of that stuff, and it's a very difficult problem because they can measure the gravitational effect of something, somebody walking, I think maybe 1,000 feet away. The gravitational field of that person would affect their setup. So everything's got to be very stable near their equipment when they're making these measurements. They have to watch out for seismic effects because any earthquakes, even at a distance, any vibrations in their equipment will totally mess everything up. Small changes due to heating of the sun will change things. It's kind of interesting when you read about it because it's in principle, everything is pretty easy to do, but it's getting rid of all the really, 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 really weak noise that makes it a hard problem. I hope that helped. It's a very deep subject. N5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And I figured you would have an answer. Bill subscribes to just about every science publication on the planet, and he reads everything. So he should have been a scientist. He has that kind of knowledge and curiosity. Let's see. I think it was Timothy, KC3CDU. You had a comment. Please go ahead from KE5I6.
Good evening. This is Timothy KC3CDU. The one thing that I was going to say on this topic is, and I'm by no means a scientist, I'm simply a musician as far as that goes, but the one thing I was going to say on this topic was, they talk about how the Earth is either, I don't remember if they say it's slowing down when it's spinning or if it's speeding up slowly but surely over the years. But the fact of the matter is, there's studies that are showing that it's either slowing down or speeding up. But the point of the matter is, I think at this point this goes back to the gravitational pull of the Earth. So the only thing that I'm really pointing out here is I think the Earth's access and speed are two things to look at when looking at this particular topic. And again, I'm not a scientist, but that's just kind of what I'm thinking about when I hear that kind of a question, because it's kind of one of those things where it's, well, you have the Earth's access and the speed that the Earth is spinning, right? So, that's kind of my thoughts. I know they're kind of vague, but there they are. This is KC3CDU, back to net.
Additional comment, short, N5BB.
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
This is N5BB. The rotation rate of the Earth is very slightly slowing down. So the Earth's day was much shorter back, hundreds of millions of years ago. So what is slowing it down? The main thing is tides, tidal forces. So there's tidal forces in the oceans, large bodies of water, and there's tidal forces on the actual Earth. Every day, the distance of your house from the center of the Earth is changing very slightly. I say every day. Well, it's every day and every month. It's changing very slightly to the gravity of the moon and the sun actually slightly bending the Earth. And so that causes friction, and that slows down. All the energy released by the tides has to come from somewhere. It's coming from slowing down the Earth's rotation rate and also affecting the orbit of the moon. So these are very slow effects. Most of the moon effects are, 28 days long, and the sun effects are on the order of 24 hours, and the things they're looking at for gravitational waves are typically 1/1000th to about 10 seconds in long length. So the time scales are completely different. So, pretty much apples and oranges. Inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill, and thank you, Timothy, for your comments. Does anybody else have any comments? Please come down. Okay, I'll just have to tell you, I'm totally lost in that conversation, so forgive me. Let's see. Next up is Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, it's time for What's Up. Please go ahead from KE5ICX, and this is Skynet.
Thank you, Tom. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. My degree is in astrophysics, and I'm the astrophysics lab manager at the Dallas College on the Brookhaven campus, and we call this segment of Skynet What's Up. Just a brief piece of information about the LIGO. They're looking for things that they can't explain in their data streams, and that's what they're looking for. The other things get screened out, so Bill was talking about the outliers. That's what they're looking for. Anyway, slide number 2, please, slide changer. On July the 9th, the moon was at its new phase. That was yesterday. And today, the moon is a waxing crescent phase. Might not have been able to see it after sunset because of the clouds. On July the 17th, the moon will be at its first quarter phase. On July the 21st, the moon will be at its perigee, which is the point of the moon's orbit which is closest to the Earth. On July the 23rd, the moon will be at its full phase. And on July the 31st, the moon will be at its third quarter phase. Slide number 3, please. On July 11th, Mars, Venus, and the moon will be in conjunction in the western early evening sky. So be looking at, before it gets completely dark in the evening sky on tomorrow night. Yeah, I hope it's going to be clear. They're saying there's a chance of thunderstorms, though. Slide number 4, please. On the evening of July the 24th, the moon, Jupiter, and Saturn will be in conjunction. Now, this will be in the eastern sky, the southeastern sky. So take a look. The moon's sort of in between Jupiter and Saturn. Slide number 5, please. On the night of June 29th, 30th, there won't be just a meteor shower, nor 2 meteor showers, but actually 3 meteor showers that peak at the same time. That's right, 3 meteor showers that peak on the same night. The Alpha Capricornids will produce a handful of meteors per hour. The Delta Aquarid meteor shower are predicted to produce about 16 meteors per hour, and the July Gamma Draconids could produce as many as 100 meteors per observing hour. Now, how do you tell which meteor is connected with which shower? Well, you trace the trail of the meteor backwards to see what constellation that the meteor seems to have originated from, and that's how you can tell. This is KF5JHA, this is Skynet. Slide number 6, please. Once again, the Texas Astronomical Society Club meeting will be on Friday, July the 23rd at 7:30 p.m., and the topic will be an open dialogue. Questions to and from members. And TASS members will receive an email link to the Zoom meeting, but TASS plans to have face-to-face meetings in September, and they're going to try to continue the Zoom meeting at the same time as the face-to-face meeting. They're trying to figure out how they can get fast internet connection. That's what Bill was talking about with the Space Society, trying to figure out how to do that at the same time with a face-to-face meeting. Once again, some of the observing sessions on Saturday nights have already started again, so go to the texasastro.org website for updated information and details about the meetings and public observing sessions. Slide number 7, please. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need to fill on any of the information? Or do you have just a general astronomy question? I don't know everything by any means, but I may know the answer to your question, or someone else on the net might. Come down with your call sign if you have a question.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
I'm clairvoyant. I know that's Tony. Please, what's your question?
No, I'm sleepy, and I missed what night you were talking about for the peak of these various meteor showers. I'd love to hear that night again. NT5TM. Thank you.
Well, that's okay. Just don't go to sleep during that time. That's going to be the night of July the 29th and 30th, which is kind of interesting because, well, the moon is going to be full on the 23rd and will be at its third quarter on the 31st. So this isn't the ideal time to look at meteors in the early morning sky because the moon will be there too. So we might not see as many as what we'd hoped to see. But if you're away from the city lights, like camping at one of the state parks, you might see a lot more. Did I answer your question?
You did. Thank you. NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. And John, over on Echolink, yes, thank you. I am radiant. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what that was in response to. I have to go back and read Echolink. Oh, okay. So slide number 8, please, Slide Master. Thank you, Tom. Tom is our Slide Master. He'll wave at you later on. So as the moon waned at the beginning of July, so do these words for the segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Until next week. Actually, I'll be doing another Skynet segment in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Back to our net control. I believe that's KE5ICX.
Thank you, Chaz. And this is KE5ICX, and this is Skynet. Let's see, next up, segment 6, space exploration and space history, I believe is next. Let's see. Yes, it is. Brenda, WB5OZL. What do you have for us this week from KE5ICX?
This is WB5OZL. Well, this week in space exploration news, NASA's James Webb Space Telescope passed a key review ahead of its fall launch. This is the next big space telescope. It just took a big step forward for its planned launch this fall. The 9.8 billion James Webb Space Telescope mission has passed a key launch review, keeping it on track to lift off atop an Ariane 5 rocket before the end of the year, ESA officials announced last week. This major milestone carried out with Ariane Space, the Webb launch service provider, confirms that Ariane 5, the Webb spacecraft, and the flight plan are set for launch. ESA officials wrote in a July 1st update. It also specifically provides the final confirmation that all aspects of the launch vehicle and spacecraft are fully compatible. The launch will take place from Europe's spaceport in Kourou, French Guiana. Mission teams are working toward a launch readiness date of October 31st. The liftoff is not expected to actually take place on Halloween. The precise launch date following October 31st depends on the spaceport's launch schedule and will be finalized closer to the launch readiness date, ESA officials wrote in the same statement. The Lunar Gateway. NASA has awarded a contract worth $935 million to Northrop Grumman to build and integrate the first habitation module for the Lunar Gateway. NASA announced July 9th that it finalized a contract with Northrop Grumman to build the Habitation and Logistics Outpost, HALO, module for the Gateway. That module One of the first, for the Gateway, will serve as a habitat for visiting astronauts and a command post for the Lunar Orbiting Facility. It will have docking points for Orion spacecraft, cargo vehicles like SpaceX's Dragon XL and lunar landers, as well as for later modules to be added by international partners. HALO is based on the Cygnus spacecraft that Northrop Grumman uses to transport cargo to the International Space Station, but extensively modified with docking points, enhanced life support, and other new subsystems. Next, there is a new atomic clock. In a study published this June in the journal Nature, a research team from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory reports on a new design of an atomic clock operating in space called the Deep Space Atomic Clock. It's the first atomic clock redesigned in decades and is operated aboard General Atomics orbital testbed spacecraft since 2019. The importance of this invention doesn't stop just outside Earth's orbit. Eric Burt, the study's first author and atomic clock physicist at JPL, tells Inverse that this kind of atomic clock could be used by future space travelers to create a kind of galactic GPS that could take our great-great-grandchildren beyond the outer planets. Through the advancement of atomic clocks, we could have self-driving spacecraft. Galactic GPS is actually a real idea, says Burt. You can imagine having satellites on the moon and doing GPS on the moon. Next up, space-related birthdays. These are astronauts. Jessica Meir, July 15th, 1977. She flew on Soyuz MS-15. Rick Husband, July 12th, 1957. STS-96 and STS-107. That was ill-fated Columbia, where he passed away. Robert F. Overmeyer, July 14th, 1936. STS-5, STS-51B. George Nelson, July 13th, 1950, STS-41C, STS-61C, and STS-26. Janet L. Cavandi, July 17th, 1959, STS-91, STS-99, STS-104. And Paul J. DeLucas, July 11th, 1950, STS-50. Space history. July 8th, 2011, 10 years ago, the STS-135, the shuttle's grand finale. In January 2004, President George W. Bush announced his visions for space exploration. Among other goals, the vision called for the retirement of the space shuttle after completion of the assembly of the International Space Station. In July 2011, the STS-135 mission with NASA astronauts Christopher Ferguson, Douglas Hurley, Sandra Magnuson, Rex Walheim aboard, completed that objective. During this final space shuttle mission, the last flight of the orbiter Atlantis, they delivered payloads and supplies to support the International Space Station for more than 1 year. The successful completion of the 12-day mission to the station brought an end to the 30-year space shuttle program. The final space shuttle mission, STS-135, the last flight of the orbiter Atlantis, lifted off from Launch Pad 39A at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida on July 8, 2011. The main objectives, the astronauts included transferring supplies and spare parts to the space station and delivering a large experiment to demonstrate in-flight refueling techniques. And one more. July 10, 1962, Telstar is launched. Telstar is the name of various communications satellites. The first two Telstar satellites were experimental and nearly identical. Telstar 1 launched on top of a Thor Delta rocket on July 10, 1962. It successfully relayed through space the first television pictures, telephone calls, and telegraph images, and provided the first live transatlantic television feed. Telstar 2 launched May 7, 1963. Both, though no longer functional, still orbit the Earth. That's all I got. Back to net. WB5OZL.
Very good. Thank you, Miss Brenda, and thank you for doing this week's space history. space exploration. Let's see, this is KE5ICX. I'm net control for tonight's Skynet. Do we have additional check-ins? I'll go ahead and take those now before we move to the next segment. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, and where you're transmitting from.
KI5 KRP, that's Kilo India 5, Kilo Romeo Papa. My name is Chris, and I'm in Kaufman.
KI5KRP, Chris and Kaufman, thanks for joining us. Chris, I've got you checked in at position 24. All right, Jazz, rush back to the radio. You're next. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. KF5JJ from KE5ICX. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Tom. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year, out of the 88 total constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky in a year. In her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Scorpius the Scorpion. Now, Carolyn and I have something in common. She had cats, and sometimes the cats would like to join in on the segment. I have Bob. Yeah, his name is a pun too, Bobcat. Anyway, he's roaming around right now, so if something happens, you'll know we could blame Bob for it. Scorpius is the constellation of the Scorpion. It's one of the few constellations that actually looks more or less like the creature that it represents. The best-known mythology regarding Scorpius has the Scorpion as the mortal enemy of Orion, the mighty hunter. Orion boasted that there was not an animal on the earth that he could not conquer. To punish him for his vanity, the goddess Juno sent the Scorpion to spring out of the earth and sting Orion, killing him. At the request of the goddess Diana, Orion was placed in the sky among the stars. Scorpius was also placed in the sky, but at the point exactly opposite where Orion was placed. So when Scorpius rises, Orion sets, and vice versa. So the two are never seen in the sky at the same time. Slide Master, slide number 9, please. This is what everyone has been waiting for. That's the jokes of the week. The Scorpion killed Orion in a battle, and both were placed in the sky as a constellation prize. Get it? Constellation prize? Now, you have to understand, my oldest daughter got me a dad joke book for Father's Day, so I might be using some of those sometime in the future. None of these I'm using right now are from that, but I've used a couple on Echolink already. Imagine you're about to be attacked by a giant scorpion. What do you do? Stop imagining it. What do you call a scorpion that has just scored a goal? A scorpion. Okay, that was an easy one. Your astronomer said, I don't believe in astrology at all. But I'm a Scorpio, and we all are born skeptics. I thought that was the funniest one. I had to use that one. What do you get when you cross a scorpion and a fish? A stingray. Well, okay, maybe that's a stretch. And the final joke for this part, anyway. I walked into the house and spotted a scorpion. It watched every step I took. It must have been a sting operation. Slide slide number 11, please. Antares, Alpha Scorpii, literally means the arrival of Antares, with Antares being the Greek name for Mars, so it is often translated as the rival of Mars instead. Its name comes from the fact that it looks so much like Mars because of its red color and the fact that it shines at about the same brightness that Mars is much of the time. During the times when Mars is in the Scorpius and Ophiuchus region of the sky and near Antares, the two make quite an interesting pair. Antares is a first magnitude M-type red star. It also is a supergiant star. It's so huge that if Antares were placed in the center of our solar system instead of our sun, the entire orbit of Mars would be inside the star, not to mention those of Mercury, Venus, and the Earth. By the way, we'd be inside of that star, so we'd be toast. Texas toast, of course. My friend Dennis Arwell says that with this in mind, if Antares and Mars were actually true rivals, my money would be on Antares. It's bigger. Antares is also a double star. It has a faint companion that is slightly over 2 arcseconds away and shining somewhere between 5th and 6th magnitude. It requires good optics and good seeing to split this pair. The color of the companion star is often reported as green, although it is really actually blue in color. Our next star, we're not changing slides yet. We're still on slide number 11. Is Akrab, or Beta Scorpii. It simply means the scorpion in Arabic. Beta Scorpii is also a double star. It is much easier to split than Antares, earning it a place in the double star list of the Astronomical League Urban Club. Both stars are type B, are blue-white. Not much color contrast between those two stars, that pair of stars. 12, please. M4 is a globular cluster that is a single object. M4 is listed in 5 different Astronomical League observing clubs. M4 is fairly easy to find since it's in the same low power field of view as Antares and nearby Sigma Scorpii. M4 is more sparsely populated than many other globular clusters. Some photographs show a denser vertical bar of stars across the center of the cluster. Visual observers have seen this as well. In his book, The Messier Objects, Stephen James Amira likens this vertical bar to the slitting pupil of a cat's eye. See, Bob was included in tonight's segment, wasn't he? Slide number 13, please. M80, isn't that funny? It's July, and we're talking about an M80. Is another globular star cluster. An easy way to find M80 is to simply draw a line from Antares to Beta Scorpii. M80 is fairly near the midpoint of this line. M80 is smaller than M4, but is more densely populated globular cluster. Due to its small size, in a 3-inch scope at low power, it has almost a star-like center, with only a bit of faint wispiness marking the outer regions. In a larger 8 to 10-inch scope, the outer reaches of M80 are better resolved into stars. The core still looks a solid white to many observers. Slide number 14, please. M6 and M7 are the very first 2 M objects that I found with my own 2-inch Tasco telescope. And M6 is an object that we're going to talk about now. M6 is an open star cluster that's long been known as the butterfly cluster, because of many observers see the shape of a butterfly formed among the stars. The cluster has about 100 members spread over an area about 26 arc-minutes in diameter, just slightly smaller than the full moon's diameter. It's just off the tail of the Scorpion. In slide number 15, M7 is not too far away. It's a naked-eye Messier object. It's also an open star cluster. It's called the Ptolemy cluster because the first written record of it was made by Claudius Ptolemy back in the 2nd century. M7 is easy to find since it's visible to the naked eye. Just look for the fuzzy area in the stinger of the Scorpion. Slide number 16, please. There are more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Scorpius the Scorpion. Just giving you a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has over 70 different different observing programs, which most of them have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in the observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year. Slide number 17, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Scorpius the Scorpion. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrowed, and stolen for tonight. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information as well. Next time I'll take a look at Hercules, the strong man. Oh, I misspelled it in my script. Okay. This is KF5JHA. I'm sending it back to our net control, Tom, KE5ICX. Have a good night, everyone.
Very good, and thank you, Chaz. We're going to skip down. Brenda, wake up. WB50ZL. You get the final word this evening on recent astronomical discoveries. Please go ahead. Oh, man, she ran off. Okay, well, then let me give you launches for this week, and we'll close it out with that. We have, coming up in July, we have a Proton launch. The Russian government Proton rocket will launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The Nuka laboratory module, it's the International Space Station. That module, the multi-purpose laboratory module, will carry the European robotic arm to the space station. In July, yet to be determined, Falcon 9 Starlink, are you ready? Here we go. SLC-4E, this is at Vandenberg Space Force Base in California. The SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch on the first dedicated mission with the Starlink Internet satellites from Vandenberg Space Force Base. This mission will deploy an unspecified number of Starlink satellites into high inclination orbit. I'm guessing it's going to be under 60 because higher inclination means less payload. On July 27th, Ariane 5 will launch, or Arianespace will launch the Ariane 5 ECA rocket designated BA-254 to launch the Star 1D2 and UTEL quantum communications satellite. Let's see, the UTEL quantum satellite was built by SSTL and Airbus Defence and Space under the auspices of Public-Private Research Development Project. On July 30th, Atlas V. Are you ready for this? Atlas V CST-100 Starliner mission. This will be the SLC-41 Cape Canaveral Air Force Station in Florida. The United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket, designated AV-082, will launch Boeing CST-100 Starliner spacecraft on a second unpiloted test flight to the International Space Station. This mission was added after Boeing's decision to refly Starliner's orbital flight test before proceeding with the crew flight test. The rocket will fly in a vehicle configurations with two solid rocket boosters and a dual-engine Centaur upper stage. On August 1st, we have a launch of the Northrop Grumman Antares rocket. We'll launch the 17th Cygnus cargo freighter on the 16th operational cargo delivery flight to the International Space Station. This mission is known as NG-16. The rocket will fly in the Antares 230 Plus configuration with two RD-181 first stage engines and a Castor 30 XL second stage. This is from pad 0A at Wallops Island, Virginia. On August 2nd, we have a Soyuz launch. This is a Russian Soyuz rocket. Will launch 34 satellites into orbit for OneWeb, which is developing a constellation of hundreds of satellites in low Earth orbit for low latency broadband communications. The Soyuz 2.1B rocket will use, everybody say it together, a Fregat upper stage. And then finally, I'll make this announcement. The Atlas V STP-3 launch from Launch Complex 41 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. The United Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket will launch the STP-3 mission for the U.S. Space Force. The STP-3 rideshare mission will launch the STP satellites, several small satellites. Will host several payloads and experiments, including the National Nuclear Security Administration's Space and Atmosphere Burst Reporting Systems, SABRS 3 payload, and NASA's Laser Communications Relay Demonstration Experiment. The rocket will fly the 551 vehicle configuration with 5-meter fairing, 5 solid rocket boosters, and a single-engine Centaur upper stage. That one sounds really interesting based on the configuration. All right, and with that, we're going to close this net down since we're at 10:30. So here we go. Tonight we had 24 check-ins, hams participating. Thanks to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at it, send an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can file topics and discussion about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and Twitter, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful resources by going to the club website, w5fc.org. Until next Saturday night, this is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, and I'll be closing the net at 22:31 local time and returning the repeater for normal use. 7-3, everybody, and enjoy discovering the universe. We'll be back in about 5 minutes to discuss the movie Beyond the Stars from 1989. You'll love it. Or not. But you might. So come back in 5 minutes and we'll discuss the movie. I'll be looking for a net control. Maybe.
K1 GBD, Kilo 1 Golf Bravo Delta, Cat 5 and ON. Are you still waking on the repeater? I guess he went to bed. We did have a long day. Alright, well, Cat 5 and ON, I'll be monitoring.
Alrighty, it's time for that afterglow net, the high point of our week. We end our week in fizzling out, I think. Tonight's movie is Beyond the Stars. There are no stars, there are no beyonds. They just thought it was a cool name, and they figured nobody would notice that it didn't mean anything. This is WB5OZL. Does anybody want to use a net? It's been a long day. I'm kind of tired. Does anybody want to use the repeater before we start this net? Alrighty then, I'm going to read the synopsis of this movie. The one that Tom wrote that has nothing to do with the movie, but is fairly entertaining. Gene Cernan was quite an astronaut. He was billed as the 12th and last man on the moon, but he went to the front door to get his mail, and like many times before, noticed most letters addressed to Steve Austin, the last man to walk on the moon. So many letters all sent to him, the real last man to walk on the moon. He sighed as he brushed the mail aside to add insult to injury, another fan letter, this time to the last man to walk on the moon, number 13. He thought, who is this Paul Andrews guy? He looks like Martin Sheen, and we all know Sheen can't even operate a stick shift on a Corvette, much less pilot a spaceship down at the surface of the moon. 12:02 alarm and a downshift into second gear, he recited from memory. The doorbell rang. Cernan shuffled to the front door. Some kid with an attitude was there with a cigarette hanging from his pursed lips. The kid spoke. Are you the last man to walk on the moon? If you are my dad. So, Pops, you ready to support me? I spoke to Steve Austin, but he just crowbarred shut his door. Cernan was not impressed. All right, Beyond the Stars is a movie made in 1989, and I hope some of you can explain it to me. That would be nice. The Wikipedia gave it short shrift. They just had a couple of paragraphs. They didn't think it was worth much more than that. But what they say is it's an American drama film written and directed by David Saperstein and starred Martin Sheen, Kristen Slater, Sharon Stone, Olivia d'Abo, and F. Murray Abraham. Got some big names in it. Science fiction drama centers on. Oh, this is science fiction? Oh, there's our problem. Centers on Eric, a teenage son of a computer scientist who worked for the Apollo program, which sent the first humans to the moon. Eric, determined to become an astronaut himself one day, befriends Paul Andrews, the 13th man on the moon. Paul is avoided by other astronauts nowadays because he was very rude and rebuffing when he returned from space. Eric slowly learns that Paul discovered something during his excursion on the moon that he keeps as a secret. Okay. Here's the drill. We're going to talk about the plot first, if you could find one. First, tell us if you could find one, and then you can talk about it. Second, characterization, and third, special effects. Okay, let's go ahead and take check-ins. Name, your location, your call sign, name, location, and whether or not you saw this movie. Please come now.
Uh-oh, this can't be good. All right, Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray, Tom. Yes. Oh, I'm in Louisville, and yes, I saw the movie.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Tango Sierra Kilo, Berlin, Dallas. I did see the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean at Fort Worth. Yes, I did see the movie.
Okay, we have KE5ICX, Tom, who did see the movie. KF5TSK, Burl, who did. KB9SOK, Sean, who did. Do we have anyone on Echolink? Okay, any other check-ins from any mode? Alrighty, Tom, you get to go first. What did you think about whether it had a plot, or do you want to talk about some other movie? Go ahead.
All right, boy, this was weird in a way because there were things about the film I liked, and there were a lot of things I didn't like about the film. But you know, you had F. Murray Abraham, Sharon Stone, that kid person, the Brat Pack, Christian Slater, and Martin Sheen. I just feel like I'm supposed to salute or something because he was president for like 7 years in West Wing. Let's see. Things about the film I liked was the idea that they pretty much, well, maybe the special effects, I don't know, but there are technical aspects I really care about to help add to the authenticity. The spacesuits and everything kind of worked. So when they were doing the moon thing and all that, I was fine with that, except for this stupid earthquake thing from Apollo 11. They must have found it at a yard sale somewhere and stuck it on Apollo. Now, I had to look very carefully because the image was rather blurry. This would have been Apollo 18, I think. And Paul was the commander, and the other guy, whoever he was, Buzz 2, he went back to the spacecraft. So here's the thing. What do? Can you handle astronauts that are surly and unpredictable and do dumb things? Yeah, all of the Apollo astronauts were that way. They were kind of all nuts anyway, because who would want to get on top of a giant explosive vehicle? So, yeah, go ahead. So that part didn't bother me so much. You know, astronauts are crazy. The ones in movies who are depicted as crazy are actually more sane than the real astronauts. Meet one or two or three, and I have name dropping, but they're nuts. Buzz Aldrin is nuts. What do you do with them? Well, okay, you put them in a situation that's more like a Hallmark Hall of Fame movie. Hallmark Hall of Fame? Hallmark movie card, a card, a Hallmark card with pop-out stuff, and called a movie. Yeah, it kind of, you know, had that feel to it. So what happens? We've got, what is it, Jeff Foxworth? That guy, he sounds like he's smoking like 10,000 cigarettes at the same time. And he's the father of Christian Slater, the kid who wants to be an astronaut, but Foxworth is a guy who worked in mission control in the trenches and detested astronauts. Everybody hates those astronauts. That was a bit over the top, although it was kind of fun watching them do that. Try SC, when he has a fight with Martin Sheen in the thing, I thought that was pretty fun. Try SCE to punch. Just go ahead and punch him out. Well, Foxworth is a lot taller anyway, so he sent Paul, in this case, Martin Sheen, halfway across the lake there in Oregon somewhere. Take that. And a bunch of expletives going with it. So we have these unlikely circumstances of meeting up with different people in different places. However, just as a sideline, because I can do this since there's the plot is somewhat light, I was reading Space Odyssey about 2001: A Space Odyssey, and, you know, a $10 to $12 million movie. They said 10. I think it was more like $12 million, which is like $700 billion in today's money. And the fact of happenstance, people showing up and wandering by and suddenly, hey, you want to be in a movie? Yeah, that happened a lot more than you think in 2001. A movie that is so seriously considered as one of the best science fiction movies ever made, and people kind of just like answered ads in the newspaper. So this movie kind of, with that, you know, in the back of my head, the same thing applies here, is could happenstance occur? Could these people show up and live in the same town and all of that, which is somewhere in Canada, but, you know, it's Oregon, I guess. Yeah, could, I suppose. And the lack of professionalism, I thought, between the, you know, mission control trench guy, which was the Foxworthy character, and then, of course, our crazy guy, Paul, as played by Wally Schirra and Buzz Aldrin and Walt Cunningham and a few other astronauts who kind of all were a little bit on the edges at times on stuff. That part didn't make sense to me. I think there was always kind of a professionalism that always went on between the astronauts and mission control and all the other people. It's not perfect. Wally Schirra was a bit of a pain in the ass at times, pardon me, as was Frank Borman, who also, after the Apollo 1 fire. I think that, you know, you're looking for an astronaut. You want somebody to be capable and able to do things in space and make decisions quickly. If they're compliant and somewhat passive, they're not going to make good astronauts because they got to make decisions to decide things very quickly and be confident about what they do. That does fall into the category of being kind of a jerk, but you need somebody like that to protect the mission and make sure that things happen. Now, there have been other astronauts that are great. They're nice and capable and all of that, But I don't think the depiction of crazy people as astronauts is that far off. Even Gene Hackman did that, and he got lost in space. What was that thing? What was the movie? I'll think of the movie. But at any rate, he floated off in his slightly smaller Apollo spacecraft. So, let's see, as it progresses, the kid falls in love with the girl who is that in the strange thing with Paul, and that's not a surprise. And the kid wants to be an astronaut, but Paul doesn't want to talk about. Oh wait, this is characterization. No, I won't say anything on that. Let's see. The kid wants to be an astronaut. That's great, and somehow or another, Paul doesn't want to talk about that. Okay, fine. It's fine. Now, let's get to the brass tacks of the whole thing. Kid launches rockets. Now, you know what I'm going to say? I say it in every doggone movie we ever watch that has an Apollo and a Saturn V. Everybody say it together. The roll patterns were wrong yet again. The 500F, I don't know why everybody builds the 500F except the Revell, and everybody else used the same roll patterns. I hate that. I'm mad. Mad, I tell you. Okay, back to net control. KE5ICX.
Okay. Gene Hackman was an astronaut? I wasn't aware of that. Yes, and we know all about roll patterns, Tom. We feel your pain. We truly do. This is WB50ZL. And next up is KF5TSK. What did you think of this movie?
This KF5TSK. Well, throughout the movie, I was looking for the plot or where things were going, and I just felt lost that, is this a movie about mental state, substance abuse, or I kept looking for it, is this a love story? And I thought the ending was really disappointing because, well, the rock glows, but what does that mean? That, there's someone in space. It's out there, but I really don't know, but I think it's there. And also I wanted to say that Christian Slater, I didn't think he was, I really didn't have the impression he was a teenager. And you set the school on fire, and you get a vacation somewhere else with, sailboats, and, you can build all the rockets you want. It was almost like he got rewarded. Like I said, I didn't find the plot. I looked for it, but it wasn't there. KF5TSK back to net.
Okay, KB9SOK. Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, the plot was pretty thin in this movie. They took a really long way around to just simply say that there's life out there someplace, because they believe that that rock had some kind of intelligent design, because it can just make sparkles when you plug in the necklace. So yeah, this one was pretty almost painful to watch at times, because it was just so slow moving, and it didn't make a lot of sense. Really, as everybody said, what was the real point here? I don't get why the astronaut would be so upset because he found this artifact. First of all, I don't even know how in the world that could even happen. How could you smuggle a rock that size back to Earth? And I'm pretty sure things are pretty well inspected when they came back from the missions. I don't know exactly how he would have even got that past them. So that part seemed kind of out there to start with, but why he'd be so upset about that, I guess because he didn't get to go out there again, I kind of gathered, but it didn't make a lot of sense. And then his illness at the end, which they kind of insinuated is partly unexplained, and he said it could have been the radiation. Well, maybe it was that rock that he was keeping around. Maybe that's what caused it. So it was kind of a weird movie in a way. See, I agree. I really don't know 100% what their point was, other than I guess they were trying to say that there's intelligent life out there someplace because of that rock. But yeah, the whole thing was just strange. And then the whole father and son thing seemed weird. They made such a big deal of them fighting and yada, 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 and he didn't want him nothing to do with the space program. And then literally within 5 seconds, he switched from not wanting him to do anything with this astronaut to, oh yeah, go hang out with him, travel across the country with him, not a problem. It made more sense had he slowly came around. So yeah, I don't know. This thing just wasn't particularly well written, and it's kind of a shame because there was fairly well-known actors in this. And it definitely could have been better. I didn't really do my research on this. I don't know if this was a made-for-TV kind of thing. I'm guessing it didn't particularly go over well because it looks like it was VHS only. There was never a DVD or Blu-ray made of it, so obviously this movie didn't do very well because most everything was made into at least a DVD at some point, even the really bad films. So, yeah, not a lot there. That's really about all I got. Back to net control, KB9SOK.
Alrighty, my turn. Oh, I agree with Burl. That was going to be one of my comments. A kid set fire to the school and got expelled for a month. And he goes on vacation. He gets to go sailing and go to parties, go out to eat, go on dates, and hang out with an astronaut. That doesn't sound like much punishment to me. I didn't quite understand why they sent him off to his dad when he got expelled anyway. I don't have much experience with suspension and expulsions, so I don't know. I thought so. My younger kid was tardy and got put on in-school suspension, and he had to go to a different school for 3 days. He did not get to come home and play video games, I guarantee you that. So, I don't know, that was kind of unrealistic. And it was really boneheaded to set off a rocket right next to the school. I fired rockets. We never did anything that dumb. We went into a field or a playground or something where you were away from buildings. And he goes, oh, well, it was an accident. Well, accidents happen because people do stupid things. And that was the case here. So that doesn't inspire confidence that he would be a good astronaut. Then, I never understood the secrecy. Why the astronaut found this incredible thing and said, oh, I'll just put this in my pocket and hide it. I don't know if you can do that. If you can sneak stuff away from the spaceship, aren't you just covered up with technicians and such? So that was a little unbelievable. And he found this thing that he believed was proof of alien life, and he just kept it to himself. He really had a moral responsibility to report what he had seen. I think it's just a real dereliction to hide that from the world. And then he was near death, but he didn't look sick, especially dying from cancer. He'd think he'd be very thin and gaunt and not look good at all. But he was out there just doing carpentry and having a good time and didn't seem at all sick. he sure waited to the last minute to tell somebody about this thing. What if he had died a few weeks before and didn't get a chance to tell somebody where the, the find of a lifetime would be, and just hide it? No, well, I don't know what his plan was, to dig it up, to tell somebody, to document it. It could have easily just stayed there in the ground buried till the end of time. I thought the kid and his dad, their relationship was squirrely. It flipped and flopped, and I didn't really understand. It didn't make much sense. I found that very unsatisfying. Okay, that's about all I got on the plot. Do we have any more check-ins? Okay, this is WB5OZL. Let's go back up to the top. There's only 3 of us. 4 of us. KE5ICX. What did you think about the characterization?
Oh my, have to go back and find the cast on this one. Christian Slater as the kid, Eric. He wasn't too bad. I didn't mind him. I thought he was serviceable. He wanted to be an astronaut. I don't know if that was very convincing in the end, but it was okay. Martin Sheen, probably the strongest character in all of this as the astronaut who's grappling with drinking problems and his leukemia and all the things going on and being the surly guy that he is, but ending up being the nice person at the end, trying to forward Eric's ultimate ideas and ideals going forward. No problem there. He was absolutely the best character, given the lack of a real script. Robert Foxworth. Oh, I call him Jeff Foxworth. It's Robert Foxworth. Jeff Foxworthy is who that other guy. So it's Robert Foxworth who played the father of Eric. Was okay. He sounded like he had like a pack of cigarettes he was smoking at the same time. He played his typical role, from Falcon Crest, same character, everything he does. Sharon Stone, Sharon Stone does Sharon Stone. A-list actor, especially at that, after that, what was it? The movie that set her off. Oh, I can't think of it. It's getting late. Let's see, Olivia Diablo, Mara. She was okay. She was, Eric's girlfriend in this, I think. Okay. Not bad. The character who was kind of crazy was F. Murray Abraham as the doctor, the whale doctor. He was very over the top. Now this guy played Gandhi, and he's played every kind of character you can possibly imagine, from some really crazy comedy stuff all the way to Gandhi. And I think it was even on Star Trek in one of the movies, so I think he was. I may be wrong. But he was kind of over the top. The writing was crudely written for him, and he goes crazy and starts talking nuts. Don Davis, Phil Clausen, I can't even remember that character. Oh well, you never know. So the rest of them going down the tubes or going down the list are somewhat unengaging. Good thing is everybody had, would get on the sailboat and things would go right. So I guess that's a good thing in the end. I don't know. I don't have a lot of deep thoughts on this one because the water's kind of shallow. Any moments, motivations in that. Brenda, I'm going to follow up with what you said. Why would Paul Anders take and, conceal the secret about what happened on the moon. I don't understand that motivation. You're right about a moral responsibility to go ahead and present that to NASA and to everyone going forward. Now, he ended up leaving himself exposed to radiation on the moon. And of course, as we all know, the lunar module had no real shielding whatsoever. You could kick and depressurize the vehicle with just kick the really thin shielding on the spacecraft and cause the whole thing to depressurize. So I don't know why they would do it. How they could possibly, Sheen being exposed and the other astronaut not, but that's just the way it is, I guess. I do notice that Michaels, the Foxworth character, he seemed to have lots of parties. I don't know what's going on in, is it Oregon? I called him Jeff, so I was wrong. So I think it's Oregon. How come there's so many parties there? What are they doing? What does he have? It's like the Playboy Mansion or something with all sorts of old people. I don't know. Kind of weird, I thought. His dislike for Andrews was kind of misplaced. As I mentioned earlier, the fact that he said, we were in the trenches, we were doing all the work, and you were getting all the glory. That's kind of petty Annie, because everybody was working really hard during the Apollo program. Didn't make any sense to me that he would be that way. Of course, the whole reason is that you need to have conflict, and Sheen was, alcoholic, and of course he had the leukemia, and he's carrying these heavy moments. But I don't know, but yes, astronauts are crazy, but maybe they do act irresponsibly. I don't know. I think if anybody acting irresponsibly, it was probably the Foxworth character, Michaels. The Michaels played, was somewhat, works for Boeing, he's got everything going, he doesn't want his kid talking to astronauts, particularly Paul Andrews. And I thought that was somewhat irrational. And then later when they have the whole thing at the party and they're fighting amongst each other, that one just didn't ring true. I just found that kind of silly in the end. Did it happen? I don't know. I doubt it. I really do doubt it. Well, wait, with maybe the exception of Frank Borman. He was kind of a jerk. Frank. Commander, Apollo 8. But don't tell him that. I could be wrong. He's still alive. He may come over and punch me in the kneecap. You never know. Okay, back to net control. KE586.
Okay, Burl, KF5TSK. Go ahead, characterization.
This is KF5TSK. Well, when I saw the list of characters, I was really impressed. I was really expecting something spectacular, but, it just wasn't written that well. One of the topics that we talked about is that, you find this rock and you bring it back, and, all of a sudden this rock has a key that's, hanging around his neck. One of the things that, I've been told about NASA that, they want you to report everything, but you don't make anything public. And I guess that would, really cause people not to say anything. That I've noticed a lot of, sci-fi reports that, the astronauts will say something, they'll go switch to the private channel. So, you know, and they edit every photograph, every video. But back to the characters, that I was expecting more than what was there, but I think it was just due to the script. KF5 TSK back to net.
Okay, KB9. That's okay, Sean. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9. That's okay. Yeah, you know, I agree. The actors, you know, were good actors, but unfortunately not much to work with. Yeah, I suppose the astronaut was probably the most, maybe, had the most depth, maybe, but, yeah, the whole father thing made no sense. You know, the kid's mom just, you know, sent him to his father just because of he misbehaved once. I mean, yeah, the characters were pretty thin on this, and I don't think it was due to the actor's fault. It was just not a lot there to work with. Yeah, I wish there was more to say about it. There just wasn't, you know, a lot of depth to this. You know, it's and I really didn't buy the kid 100% wanting to be an astronaut in it. I mean, he kept saying it, but he doesn't feel like, you know, like it was said, you know, breaking rules and stuff is not going to get you accepted into NASA. So he didn't really act like a kid that was focused on getting into NASA, other than he just wanted to make this model rocket. I don't know. There were just a lot of problems with this. And I didn't understand the whole character, the guy studying the wells, and, you know, what the point of that really was either. Yeah, it just, I don't know really how that added to the story. I really don't think it did in any way. I guess it's kind of going back to plot again, but yeah, just really weak. Not much else to say. Back to net control. This is KB9. That's okay.
Okay, this is WB5OZL, and we are discussing the movie Beyond the Stars. Do we have any more check-ins? Okay, what did I think about the characters? The main character didn't really strike me as somebody who's going to be an astronaut. Most astronauts are overachievers. You know, they're valedictorians and sports people and just really motivated. And he just seemed a bit like a slacker. The model was cool. I like that. But I just think he needed to show some more interest in space and science. And, you know, he's going to have to learn all that. But, you know, he just seemed more like a partier. Somebody said he didn't seem like a teenager. I looked it up. He would have been about 20 when that movie was made. So maybe not still a teenager, but not too far off. Although at the time I thought this wasn't too believable of him as a teenager. And his dad and the girlfriend, you know, they just kind of left me lukewarm. I just didn't care much about him. His dad was so ridiculous with his anger. I just thought that was unprofessional. And the astronaut, too, he started off being real unprofessional and rude and obnoxious. Then he kind of came around. But, you know, I just almost didn't care. I've met quite a few astronauts. And a lot of them, you know, when you meet them, you realize why they achieved what they did. There's something a little extra there. They got stuff I don't have. And, yeah, a lot of them are kind of crazy. Some are kind of grumpy. But still, they're generally really smart and often very personable and friendly. So, to me, I wouldn't have just said, oh, he must be an astronaut. Didn't strike me that way at all. Although I liked him as an actor. I loved him in The Final Countdown. It's one of my favorite movies. Let's see, who else was in? Oh, the whale thing? Boy, that just left me cold. It's like, what are we doing here? Just didn't understand why that was inserted into this movie, other than maybe they're filming in Canada or somewhere and they happen to see whales and they go, oh, let's stick this in the movie. I seriously doubt that was in the script originally, and to me it didn't move the story along at all. All right, do we have any more check-ins? Okay, it's time to talk about special effects. KE5, ICX, Tom, go ahead.
Well, thank you, Brenda. And let's see, special effects. Well, there aren't a lot of them in the movie. I'll go for, of course, the spacesuits and all that. So everybody, batten down the hatches. Here we go. The spacesuit itself, it was an A7LB suit, and that's fine. It has to do with how it's all connected to the PLSS, the backpack, and the whole nomenclature of the suit itself was exactly right. The only thing is, of course, when you're doing a movie, it doesn't inflate it like it does on the moon. It looks like it's, what do you call it? Sort of wearing pajamas or something. So it has kind of that loose fitting thing as the astronauts wear them. So there's no way to really make that happen unless you were to have a real spacesuit inside of a vacuum environment, and then you get that puffy look. You don't have that in this, and everything kind of sags and looks kind of weird. But the suit itself was technically correct, which I was fine with for Apollo, quote, air quotes, 18. The suit and the connection pieces for the oxygen in that actually during the later J missions were lifted up, so they kind of followed this like parallelogram, was it? Or rhombus, I guess it's a rhombus. One on top of the other, followed by one on top of the other, so that when they sat in the rover, they weren't in the way. The earlier suits, the A7L suits, actually they had not conceived of a rover on the moon yet. They were just trying to get to the moon. These attachment points were much lower on the body and would have interfered if they were in a sitting position on a space car, as was the case. So I like that. There was a shot of the solar panel for the earthquake. What do they call that thing? Whatever it was. It was on Apollo 11. It was never used again. Later missions had devices that were actually pounded into the ground. But this one had a solar panel array on it, and that could not have been on any J mission, much less an Apollo 18. But they liked it because it looked cool on screen, and nobody would know any better. Maybe not even me. So, yeah, it was okay. It was kind of cool to see, I guess. That was fine. Next. By then, in 1989, everybody knew that astronauts were doing the bunny hop. They were walking along when they were on the moon up until the 70s. the astronauts actually did hippity hoppity. That was even on what was it? Apollo? Was it Apollo? I'm trying to remember. I think it was Apollo 16. Hippity hoppity on the moon. So when you do that, literally you're jumping from one location to another. Of course, when you're in 1G gravity and doing a movie, everybody's walking along and unable to do anything except shuffle along. So you see that, and I think it was reasonably well done, but it did not reflect what actually happened on the moon, and everybody had seen, hours and hours of footage on the moon, either in live or later on. So that wasn't as convincing, but I have to say it wasn't all that bad. They seemed to do a fairly good job with it, given the constraints of the movie. Now, they had the little tiny crater that Paul went down into and he couldn't get out of. I think he could have jumped out of that crater easily in 1/6 gravity and been fine, but that would have screwed up the story. Also, if you made the crater bigger, which is I think what the original idea was, it would have cost them a lot more money. This movie, I think, was meant to be a theatrical release. There was a lot of bad language, using four-letter words, not that four-letter word, but all the other four-letter words. And as such, I think that it was not a made-for-TV movie, but a low-budget theatrical release. Or maybe a direct-to-VHS, I don't know. I have to go and look it up. But in all cases, it was okay. The rest of it and effects were just simply, cinematography stuff. It was okay. I like the interiors of the buildings in that. The houses in that were fun. That looked fine. The lighting was okay. I liked that. The music was substandard in many ways, kind of that 80s, early 90s vibe. But the rest of the parts, I think, were okay. They were presented adequately. It's just, as we've mentioned, a weak plot. It could have been done better, and then stuffing that whole thing with the alien thing at the end, I think, was done. How do we end this movie? Quick, we need Act 5. And they didn't have a very good Act 5. Back to net, KE5I6.
Okay, KF5, TSK, Burl, special effects.
This is KF5 TSK. Well, in the beginning of the movie, they were showing them on the moon, and it was like they were in the crater, and they were having so much trouble trying to get out of the crater. And my thought was, well, gee, they could just jump and get out of the crater. They should be weightless to an extent, and it even when they were running, it just seemed like that they were, weighted down, the sack that was attached to their, I guess, oxygen unit, it was flopping back and forth like, that there was some gravity to it. And the ending, this stone that had this bright light, they never explained exactly what it was. It was kind of like, oh, we could contact aliens now. You would expect more. It was like, an hour and 30 minutes, and they get to the end and go, oh, we were going to contact someone. It really did seem like KF5 back then.
Okay, KB5, SOK, Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9 SOK. Yeah, I agree with what's already been said. Yeah, the spacesuit looked cool. the most part, and I'll leave that up to the experts for all the details. But it sounds like they got one thing right, so I guess it's better than nothing. Yeah, I agree. It looks like once again, I know it's hard to simulate the gravity, obviously, on the moon. But yeah, I thought the same thing, that they looked like they were a little heavy. The walking didn't look real. I thought the same thing about the crater. Why didn't he just jump out? And then when he slipped and fell, that part didn't make much sense either. That part was a little off. And the scene seemed like they filmed it extra dark or something. I don't know if it was trying to cover up because they didn't really have the money to make the surface look like the surface of the moon. That part just wasn't particularly impressed with. The ending, the glowing rock, once again, that wasn't a very good effect either. White taking a chunk out of the rock would, I guess, deactivate it, and then once he stuck the necklace back in there, it completed the circuit, but, it looked like a rock. It might have made more sense had it been he found a metallic object and brought it back, so it looked like maybe there was something inside of it, but, they really didn't think that part through too well in the effects. Like Tom said, the music was typical for the 80s. It wasn't impressive at all. In fact, I don't hardly remember any of it other than just the intro. Sound and stuff was okay. They didn't skimp on that part, but sailing boat looked like a sailing boat. Not a lot to say in this movie in that area, but overall, just kind of disappointed with it. With the title and the name, the people that were in this film, I was actually kind of hopeful, thinking, well, this is just a movie I missed, but it's a really good sci-fi movie, but it unfortunately wasn't. But oh well. That's really about all I got. Back to net control. This is KB9SOK.
Okay, well, special effects is what we had on the moon. It wasn't horrible, but it really wasn't great either. And that's about all we have in the way of special effects. I'm just really tired of talking about this movie. I'm about ready to move on. Do we have any more check-ins? Okay, does anybody have anything else they want to say about this movie? Well, alrighty then. Tom, tell us about next week.
Oh, Brenda, after such a stellar performance tonight with Beyond the Stars. By the way, I had a hard time trying to find this movie from the clutter from Battle Beyond the Stars, which was a really terrible movie, which you've already reviewed. Okay, we're going to do, because I've been putting this off for a couple of years, the movie will be the 2006 extravaganza, Blood on the Brazos. And you're thinking, is this a science fiction film? No, it's not. My videographer, cameraman guy did this movie in 2006. And he has insisted, after I told him that we do a net about movies, science fiction movies specifically, and he said, well, I did this movie. You've got to see it. It's great. I have not seen the movie. I have not. He insists that we should see it because it is great. So next week's movie, if anybody's going to watch, is called Blood on the Brazos from 2006. And I will put in the suitable background information as I always do. You can send an email to Tom. You can send an email to me, Tom, at Kilo Echo 5 India Charlie X-ray at yahoo.com. and I will put you on the list and send it to you, or you can go to the Facebook page, Afterglow Movie, 2 words, Afterglow and Movie, and say you would like to be a part of it. Just sign up, and I think you get in automatically. And then you'll get what the movies are. The next movie after that will be The 27th Day from 1957. Now, that's a weirdo that I've never seen before, and I think it will be quite good. Blood on the Brazos, a Western for next Saturday. This is KE5I6.
All right, we're going to close the net. Thanks for everybody that participated. This is WB5OZL Clear.